Emotional blocks and personal liberation. An emotional block is like an invisible chain. You can't see it, but you can feel it with every step you take. It's that crushing weight on your chest that prevents you from taking a deep breath, and that voice in your head that whispers you can't, just when you dare to dream. These are wounds that don't bleed on the outside but have left such deep scars within that they condition the way you live, the way you love, and even the way you look at yourself in the mirror. Imagine it this way: a child who grows up hearing every day that they are worthless, or who brings a drawing home and receives a scoff instead of a hug. That child learns to hide their talents to avoid being hurt, and when they are an adult, that very pattern follows them relentlessly. Opportunities present themselves, but something inside tells them, "Don't even try, you'll be ridiculed again." That is the cruel power of an emotional block. It doesn't need iron bars to imprison you, because it does so from within the confines of your own mind. Most of these blocks don't just appear out of nowhere. They are the echoes of past moments that have not been healed, like a betrayal that taught you not to trust anyone, or an abandonment that made you believe you are unworthy of love. They can also stem from a failure that tattooed the idea of not being enough onto your mind. The hardest part is that many times we are not even aware that these old wounds are still alive and actively impacting our lives, until one day we find ourselves questioning why we are still in the same place, despite all our best efforts to move forward. But there is something important you must know. An emotional block is not a life sentence. Instead, it's a profound message from your soul saying, there is something here that needs to be looked at, something that needs to be released and set free. Your body also knows this and screams it out with back pain, with a lump in your throat, with insomnia, or with chronic fatigue that just won't go away. The mind and body are allies in this silent language, and when you learn to listen to them both, you will discover that the key to moving forward has always been within you all along. The first step to breaking those chains is to identify the recurring emotions that hold you back and prevent you from moving on. Perhaps you feel like you always return to the same familiar place, like the insecurity that appears every time you are about to make an important decision, or the fear of rejection whenever you try to show your true self to others. There's also the guilt that crushes you every time you even think about prioritizing yourself. These emotions are like old, scratched records that the subconscious plays over and over until you finally decide to change the record and listen to a new tune. Observe your life closely. What sensations appear when you are on the verge of taking a step towards what you truly want? Perhaps you feel a strong sense of anxiety and immediately invent 1,000 excuses to postpone it. Or perhaps a deep sadness invades you and paralyzes you for no apparent reason, leaving you stuck in place. These emotions are not your enemies. They are warnings. They are red lights on the dashboard of your soul that tell you, there's a story here that hasn't ended yet, and here lies the trap. If you don't acknowledge them, your emotions will disguise themselves to keep you in the same place. Fear dresses up as perfectionism, and anger hides behind impatience. Sadness disguises itself as apathy and a general lack of interest. That's why, instead of running away from them, sit down with them and ask, what do you want to show me? When you do this, you stop being a victim of your own emotions and instead become their translator, someone capable of deciphering the message and using it to advance with confidence. Many of these repeated emotions don't appear on their own. They are tied to limiting beliefs that you unconsciously learned throughout your life. Maybe you grew up in a household where you constantly heard phrases like, money is dirty, no one in this family ever gets anywhere, or it's better not to take risks. Perhaps they weren't said directly to you, but you saw them in the actions of those around you. Parents who never pursued their own dreams, grandparents who accepted jobs they hated because that's all there was, or older siblings who abandoned their passions for fear of failure. Now take a moment to ask yourself, How many of my decisions are truly my own, and how many are being made by that inherited voice from the past? Am I living my own life, or am I simply repeating my family's story? If I dared to believe something different, what doors would open up for me? Here's a difficult example. Imagine that from a young age you were taught that a woman can't get by on her own. You grew up seeing this as an absolute truth, and now, even though you have an education, skills, and countless opportunities, you always end up tying yourself to relationships that hurt you because of your fear of being alone. It's not that you can't be on your own, it's that you are blinded by a belief that was never truly yours, but that you adopted as if it were to liberate yourself. You must first detect these phrases and these invisible mandates from the past, and then question them with a critical mind. It's not enough to just repeat, "I am capable." You have to tear out that old seed by the root and plant a new one in its place, because as long as you don't, you will continue trying to run while wearing chains that don't belong to you. What you think and feel doesn't just float away into the air. It gets imprinted on your body like invisible ink. Each unexpressed emotion looks for a place to be stored, and if you don't release it, it transforms into tension, pain, or even illness. The mind sends signals, and the body receives them, and together they create a language that we rarely take the time to listen to. If you've been swallowing your anger for years to avoid causing problems, don't be surprised if your shoulders and neck are as hard as stone, because your body is carrying the weight of everything you didn't say. If you have lived with constant fear, your breathing shortens, and your chest feels compressed, as if you can never fill yourself with air completely. If sadness has been your silent companion, your immune system lowers its guard, and you suddenly get sick more often, because even your defenses surrender when your soul is exhausted. The connection is so incredibly strong that science confirms it. Chronic stress alters your blood pressure, affects your digestion, changes the rhythm of your heart, and modifies the chemistry of your brain. A mind saturated with negative thoughts doesn't just steal your peace, it steals energy from every single cell in your body. Think back to a time when you were in love, and everything seemed easier. You walked lighter, slept better, and even your skin radiated. Now remember a moment of grief or loss. Your body felt heavy, your back was hunched, and your stomach was tight. That is the body, mind, and emotion connection in action, and you experience it every day, even if you are not always consciously aware of it. That's why, to unblock yourself emotionally, it's not enough to simply think positive thoughts from your head. You have to invite your body to participate in the liberation process, because when the body heals, the mind becomes clearer, and when the mind calms down, the soul expands into a new state of being. Those pains that appear for no apparent reason, the tension that won't go away even after a full night's sleep, or the lump in your throat when you want to say something important, they are not coincidences, they are powerful messages. Each symptom is a letter that your body sends you to let you know that something needs your attention. If you've had lower back pain for days, maybe it's not just due to bad posture, but rather the feeling of insecurity that constantly accompanies you, or the fear of not having a solid ground beneath your feet. If your stomach twists before certain meetings, perhaps it's not bad digestion, but a reflection of the anxiety and anticipation of an inevitable conflict. If you feel a weight on your chest, it could be unexpressed sadness, a grief you are trying to hide even from yourself. Ignoring these signals is like covering a car's warning light with adhesive tape. The problem doesn't disappear, it only gets worse. The difference is that your body, when ignored, will look for stronger ways to get your attention, such as insomnia, chronic fatigue, anxiety attacks, or even more serious diseases. Listening to your body is an act of self-love. It means stopping, closing your eyes, and asking yourself, where does it hurt, and what emotion lives here? It's about touching that area with your hand and telling it, I recognize you, I hear you, you are no longer alone in this. Because when you give your body space to speak, you also give your soul permission to begin the healing process. Imagine coming home after an exhausting day. Your head is filled with to-do lists, your shoulders feel like two heavy rocks, and you have a tingling sensation in your stomach that you don't know if it's hunger or anxiety. Instead of turning on the television to distract yourself, you decide to try something completely different. You sit down in a quiet place, put your feet on the floor, close your eyes, and place one hand on your chest and the other on your abdomen. You inhale deeply through your nose, counting to 4, and feel the air pushing your abdomen outward as if you were filling a balloon. You hold that breath for a couple of seconds, and then exhale slowly through your mouth, counting to 6, imagining that each time you release the air, you are also releasing the tension, worries, and thoughts that are squeezing you from within. You repeat this several times and notice something curious. Your shoulders drop without you asking them to. Your jaw loosens and your heart beats more calmly. In just 3 minutes, the mental storm begins to calm down, and your body feels a new kind of space, a sense of relief that you hadn't noticed all day. Conscious breathing is not magic. It is biology and soul working together as a team. Oxygen reaches your cells better, your nervous system receives the command that you are safe, and your energy begins to flow freely again. It's a powerful reminder that you have a free, powerful, and always available tool within you to break those invisible chains that have been holding you back. Forgiving yourself is about releasing the heavy stone you have been carrying in your heart for years. Many times you don't move forward, not because you lack strength, but because you are carrying old guilt as if it were a heavy chain. Perhaps you blame yourself for something you did, for something you didn't do, or for something you allowed to happen to you. But you must understand this fundamental truth: in that very moment, you made the best decision you could with the level of consciousness and tools you had available to you at the time. Self-forgiveness does not erase the past, but it does clean up the present and give you a fresh start. It is about looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, I recognize you, I accept you, and I give you permission to start all over again. And this is where affirmations become a daily medicine for your soul. Repeat them calmly, breathing deeply and feeling every single word. I release the guilt and allow myself to move forward. I am learning and growing every day. The past does not define my worth. I love and accept myself exactly as I am in this very moment. I choose to let go of what no longer serves me. When you repeat affirmations from the heart, you not only change your internal dialogue, but you also re-educate your mind so that it stops sabotaging you and begins to support you instead. Self-forgiveness is the key that opens the door to a lighter life, full of endless possibilities. Forgiving yourself is one of the bravest acts you can ever do, but it is also one of the most difficult, because it's not just about stopping the thoughts about what you did, but also about stopping the silent punishment you inflict on yourself for it every single day. There is guilt that doesn't shout, but still weighs on you, and you carry it with you like a shadow that never goes away. Think about those nights when, just before falling asleep, your mind travels back in time and relives that decision you would now change, that word you should have never said, or that opportunity you let slip away. Your heart shrinks, your throat closes up, and a heavy sigh reminds you that you still haven't let it go. The truth is, you can't go back. You can't rewrite history, but you can absolutely rewrite the way you remember it. You can hug that version of yourself who didn't know what you know today, who did the best they could with what they had. You can tenderly say to that person, I forgive you, I no longer blame you, now we will walk forward together. Forgiving yourself doesn't mean forgetting, it means releasing the pain that was trapped in that memory. It means looking at yourself with the same compassionate eyes with which you would look at a loved one you deeply cherish. It means giving yourself permission to live your life without the weight of chains from the past. And when you manage to do this, something inside you breaks, but it's not your heart, it's the cage that had it locked up all this time. Releasing the need for absolute control is like opening your hand after years of keeping it tightly clenched. At first it hurts because you've been clenching for so long that you no longer remember what freedom feels like. We desperately want to control every little detail, every person, and every outcome, as if by doing so we could avoid pain and make fear disappear by having everything under a perfect plan. But life doesn't work that way. Control is a powerful illusion that keeps us tense, vigilant, and completely exhausted. And while you are trying to make everything turn out exactly as you imagine it, life passes you by without you truly living it. There are loves that don't arrive because you don't leave space for them, opportunities that slip away because you were too busy trying to control what you already had. Letting go is not about giving up. It is about trusting the process, trusting that you don't need to know all the answers right now, trusting that even if something turns out differently than you planned, you will have the strength to face it head on, trusting that the universe, life, or whatever you choose to call it, is also working in your favor and has a plan for you. True peace is not found in having everything go exactly as you planned. It is found in knowing that no matter what happens, you are going to be okay. When you release control, you open up space for the unexpected, the good, the magical, and the things you couldn't have even imagined to enter your life. And that is a gift that absolute control will never be able to give you. Cultivating self-love is laying a solid foundation for everything you want to build in your life. Without self-love, any progress you make will be shaky, because a part of you will always doubt whether you deserve what you receive. It's about looking at yourself with the same patience and tenderness with which you would care for someone you deeply love, and reminding yourself every day that you are worthy, that you matter, and that you are more than enough just as you are. You can start with simple but powerful gestures, like setting clear boundaries and saying no when something doesn't resonate with you, and doing it without any guilt. Every time you defend your peace, you are telling yourself that your well-being is a top priority. Another great example is taking care of your body as you would a sacred temple. It's not about strict diets or physical obsession, but rather about nourishing yourself with foods that give you energy, moving your body in ways you truly enjoy, and getting enough rest to recharge. Your body is your very first home, and the way you treat it is a direct reflection of the love you have for yourself. A third example is to talk to yourself with profound respect and to replace constant self-criticism with words of encouragement. You can go from saying, "I'm no good at this," to saying, "I am learning, and I am getting better at this every single day." Your internal dialogue is the voice you hear most often in your life. If that voice becomes your ally, nothing will be able to stop you for very long. Ceasing to run from what hurts is one of the most courageous acts a human being can ever do, because running away is easy. Hiding behind busy schedules, distractions, or a never-ending list of excuses is comfortable, until one day you realize that the pain is still chasing you, that it runs faster than you do, and that it won't stop just because you close your eyes and pretend it's not there. Pain doesn't just disappear over time if you ignore it. It becomes deeply ingrained, becomes a part of you, and it seeps into your relationships, into your decisions, and into the way you look at yourself in the mirror. While you are running away from it, it grows in silence, becoming more powerful. Facing it means looking it in the eye and saying, "I know you are here, and I'm not going to keep running from you." But it also means doing it with self-compassion, without becoming your own executioner. Perhaps facing the pain means having a long overdue conversation that you've been avoiding for years. Maybe it's about opening that box of memories you put away because you didn't want to relive them. Or maybe it's simply about sitting in silence and allowing the tears to flow without asking them for permission. Compassion is key here because it's not about punishing yourself for feeling. It's about giving yourself a safe space to go through what hurts. When you stop running, the pain stops chasing you and begins to transform. You will discover that you weren't fragile for feeling it, but strong for holding it and moving through it. And in that very moment, what was once an open wound becomes a powerful scar that no longer hurts, but instead reminds you of what you are made of and how much strength you carry within you. When you learn to transform fear into a powerful engine for change, you will naturally begin to let go of the weight of the past and look more towards the present. This happens because you will finally understand that fear is often fed by old memories and experiences that no longer have any real power over you. And just as you can't drive a car by only looking in the rearview mirror, you can't move forward in your life with your gaze fixed on what has already happened. The present is the only place where you have the power to act, to love, to make decisions, and to create a new reality for yourself. This is where you have the ability to choose a new thought, to take a step you were previously too afraid to take, and to open the door to opportunities that you wouldn't have seen if you were still trapped in reliving old scenes from the past. When your attention is focused on the here and now, fear loses its power because it stops anticipating tragedies and begins to accompany you in real action. It is no longer a monster that paralyzes you, but rather a signal that you are alive and that you are in motion. And in that state, every decision you make feels lighter because you know you are not repeating the past. You are building a future from this precise moment. Living in the present is like opening a window in a room that has been closed for years. The fresh air comes in, the light illuminates corners you thought were lost, and suddenly you can breathe differently. When you decide to stop living in the past, you stop giving power to memories that only exist in your mind, and you reclaim your energy for the only thing you can truly transform: the present moment. This does not mean that you ignore what you have lived through, but rather that you choose not to stay and live there forever. The past is a book that has already been written. The present is the blank page right in front of you. If you keep reading the same chapter over and over, you will never discover what happens next in your story. But if you dare to write in the now, everything has the potential to change. Focusing on the present gives you an incredible amount of clarity. Fear is reduced, guilt loses its weight, and your dreams no longer feel so distant. In this very instant, you can choose a kinder word for yourself, an action that brings you closer to what you want, and a decision that breaks an old pattern. And the beautiful thing is that every small change in the present accumulates over time. Then one day you will look back and realize that the life you always dreamed of began when you decided to be here, in the exact moment where everything is possible for you. Accepting that moving forward sometimes means going slower is about understanding that not all growth is measured in speed. There are moments when life asks you to slow down to assimilate what you have learned, to heal wounds that are still bleeding, or to regain strength before the next big leap. Forcing yourself to run when your soul needs to walk only creates more stress and more confusion in your life. Think of a plant. You don't make it grow faster by pulling on its leaves. You allow it to follow its own natural cycle, trusting that with time and care it will bear fruit. The same thing happens with you. Maybe right now your biggest step forward is to take a single afternoon to rest, to allow yourself to say no to a commitment that drains you, or to dedicate a whole month to strengthening your health before returning to a new project. There are slow steps that are actually giant leaps forward. Deciding to ask for help after years of silence, daring to forgive after decades of holding on to a grudge, or letting go of someone you love to make space for what is to come. These are not setbacks. They are powerful investments of your energy that prepare you for a more solid and lasting progress. Ask yourself, do I really need to rush right now, or what I really need is to stop, breathe, and recharge my batteries? Sometimes the fastest step forward is to stop long enough to avoid tripping over the same old rock again. Connecting with your spirituality or inner practice is about finding an anchor that holds you steady, even when everything outside seems uncertain. It is not necessarily about religion, but rather about cultivating a sacred space where you can feel at peace, listen to yourself, and remember that you are so much more than your problems and your fears. It can be through daily meditation, closing your eyes and observing your breathing until your mind quiets down. It could be writing in a journal at sunrise, emptying everything you feel onto the paper to start your day feeling lighter. Or maybe it's lighting a candle and being grateful for 3 things before you go to sleep, as a ritual that reminds you of the good that is still present in your life. It can also be walking barefoot on the grass, feeling the earth beneath your feet, and remembering that you are part of something much bigger. Or practicing yoga not just as a physical exercise, but as a meeting with yourself, with your body and your energy. Even praying or repeating mantras, if they resonate with you, can become a great balm for your soul. The key is to find that practice that brings you back to the center and reminds you of who you are beyond all the noise. Ask yourself, what connects me to a sense of calm and purpose? The answer will be your door to a living personal spirituality that will sustain you on your darkest days and empower you on your brightest. Celebrating small steps as big victories is a way of telling your mind and heart that effort matters, that every step counts, and that you don't have to wait for everything to be perfect to feel proud of yourself. Many times we think it's only worth celebrating when we achieve a huge goal, but the truth is that transformation is built with small daily gestures that seem insignificant until one day you realize they completely changed your life. Think of someone who has lived for years trapped in fear, and who one day dares to say what they think out loud, or someone who has spent months without leaving the house and finally decides to go for a walk in the park. Or what about the person who has spent years repeating that they are worthless, and one morning looks in the mirror and manages to say, "I accept you," even if it's only in a whisper? These moments are seeds of freedom that deserve to be celebrated with the same intensity as a major accomplishment. When you celebrate the small things, you train your mind to recognize progress instead of obsessing over what is missing. You motivate yourself, you fill yourself with energy, and you reinforce the idea that you are indeed moving forward, even if the path ahead is long. Every victory, no matter how small it may seem, is a sign that you are no longer where you were before, and that alone is reason enough to honor yourself and continue on your journey. Remembering that every emotion brings a lesson is understanding that your inner world is a teacher who never rests. Emotional blocks don't appear to punish you, but rather to point to a place in your life that is asking for more light. Fear doesn't just show up to scare you, it often comes to show you where that leap is that you are not yet brave enough to take. Sadness is not there to sink you, but to invite you to honor what you have lost, and to recognize that there is love behind what hurts. Even anger, which is so often seen as a bad emotion, can be a cry from your soul, demanding respect, dignity, and clear boundaries. When you allow yourself to look at each emotion from this new perspective, the block changes shape. What once seemed like an insurmountable wall now reveals itself as a closed door, and you have the key to open it. It is not about repressing your feelings or being overly dramatic. It is about truly listening to them. What is this emotion trying to tell me? What part of me is asking for attention, care, or a change? By asking yourself these questions, you enter into a deep and meaningful dialogue with yourself, and it is in that very dialogue where true liberation begins to take place. Your emotions are like letters that your body and soul send to each other. If you ignore them, they accumulate and become dead weight. But if you read them and understand them, they are transformed into maps that guide you toward the life you were meant to live. Every tear can be a new beginning, a baptism into a new stage of your life. Every trembling in your hands can be the prelude to a courageous decision. Every lump in your stomach can be a sign that you are about to break an old and outdated pattern. Living with this awareness is about knowing that everything you feel, even the most uncomfortable sensations, is a part of your own personal evolution. It is about trusting that nothing is there by accident, and that every emotion you listen to is one more step toward your freedom. This way, your blocks stop being chains and instead become your teachers. And a teacher, once they have taught you what you needed to learn, will always leave you feeling stronger, more conscious, and freer than you were before. Seeking therapeutic support or guidance when you need it is not a sign of weakness. It is a powerful demonstration of self-love and wisdom. The great author and spiritual teacher Louise Hay used to say that we are not here to do everything alone, and that every person who comes into our lives with tools to help us is a part of the answer to our inner requests. Sometimes we think that asking for help is an admission of defeat, but in reality, it is about opening the door to new perspectives and insights that we might not have discovered on our own. A therapist, a coach, a spiritual mentor, or even a support group can become that mirror that clearly shows you what you are carrying inside, without any judgment, and with the sole intention of helping you grow and evolve. They can teach you new ways to release emotional blocks that you can't see on your own, guide you in practices that reconnect your body and soul, or help you rewrite the limiting beliefs that have held you back for years. Louise Hay always reminded us that we all have the capacity to heal, but we don't always have to do it alone. The love and guidance of others can be the bridge we need to cross from fear to complete freedom. Accepting that help is telling the universe, I am ready to change and I am allowing myself to receive everything that brings me closer to my well-being. When you decide to seek support, you not only give yourself the opportunity to heal more quickly, but you also break the pattern of isolation that so often accompanies emotional blocks. You will discover that sharing your burden doesn't make it heavier for others, but makes it much lighter for you. And in that process, you will begin to walk with more confident steps toward the life you so deeply deserve. How do you feel after hearing everything we have shared today? Do you believe that this message will help you feel more energized and have more clarity to move forward in your own life? Let me know in the comments. Tell me how you are going to start seeing life from now on and what changes you are going to put into practice. Thank you for being here, for giving me your time and your attention. This channel is a space where there is no judgment, where people who are on the same journey come together to grow, heal, and become the very best version of themselves. We are a strong community, and every comment, every experience, and every word you share adds more strength to this path we are all on. I invite you to like this video, subscribe so we can continue walking together, and share it with someone you feel needs to hear it right now. You never know who you might be helping with a simple, thoughtful gesture. I want to leave you with one final, powerful quote from Louise Hay. Remember, you have been criticizing yourself for years, and it hasn't worked. Try approving of yourself and see what happens. I am sending you a warm hug, one of those that reaches the soul, and I'll see you in the next video to continue releasing our blocks and creating the life we truly deserve.